Yes, good afternoon to all the delegates and the faculty members. I am your host for the day, and my name is Shweta, and we are here from the International Hall Center, Hall B. So the first speaker could continue. I think Dr. Arun could start with the session.
Dr. Nasher, would you like to give some, or should I start?
I think you start.
Okay.
All right. We are running late by 8-10 minutes. Yeah.
All right. I'll just start. So, I'll share my screen.
Thank you.
So, can you see my screen?
Not yet, sir. Yes.
Now?
Yes, sir. So you'll probably have to optimize the screen, and because there are multiple slides that we can see. You'll have to probably select the first one.
Yeah, I'm selecting that. Okay. All right. So can you minimize this thing? Okay.
Yes, sir. Good to go.
So, good afternoon, everybody. And at the very outset, I'd like to thank Hoya people for giving me this opportunity. And the topic allotted to me for this talk is Hoya WaveNext platform. How is it different from other platforms? I have no financial interest in the subject matter of this talk. So it's not moving forward. Okay, I'll just. Okay. So what is this Hoya WaveNext platform? So we will divide the talk in 2-3 subsets. So this platform, WaveNext platforms, has new features with new lens design. It's a new hydrophilic acrylic material with almost gristling-free material, and this has a new delivery system, as well as it probably has a least of posterior capsular opacification rates. So this is what the lens looks like. And before we go into the details, first of all, we will discuss the lens design. As we all know, mostly the lens grossly corrects the lower order aberration in the form of defocus or astigmatism, and these two lower order aberrations are responsible for 80 to 90% of the optical defects which we are trying to correct by doing IOL surgery or any other type of refractive surgery. And out of these 10 to 20% optical defects are because of higher order aberrations. Out of these higher order aberrations, coma and spherical aberration account for around 10 to 20% of the optical defects. And out of these two, the impact of coma as well as spherical aberration on image quality is quite significant. As you can see, the coma leads to little ghosting, and spherical aberration leads to a small halo around the images. And there is a naturally occurring ocular coma in all of us, which exists within the human eye, as has been shown, and it also increases with age. And also with increasing amount of cataract, it has been shown that the degree of coma in the eye increases. And this naturally occurring coma in the eye is because of the shape of the cornea. It also has a vertical and a horizontal component, and it has been shown that the internal optics of the crystalline lens compensate for corneal induced coma. And as we all know, the spherical aberration could be a positive spherical aberration as shown on the right side, or it could be a negative spherical aberration. All of us, the combined eye spherical aberration is around 0.1 micron. Cornea has plus 0.27 on an average, and lens has, in the youth of life, has around 0.2 minus 0.2 micron of spherical aberration. In young age, the lens has negative spherical aberration, which partly neutralizes the positive spherical aberration of the cornea. And as the lens age advances, the spherical aberration of lens becomes positive, and it reduces the quality of vision, as we can see. And cataract surgery is an opportunity to manage this spherical aberration. As we have told, it is average between 0.27 to plus zero point 0.3, and aspheric IOLs are designed to improve the quality of vision by compensating this naturally positive spherical aberration of human cornea. But the effects of coma on image quality is not routinely considered while doing a IOL or a phaco surgery. And as we can see in this cartoon, the conventional aspherical IOL targets only aberration balancing between lens and cornea to reduce the spherical aberration so as to improve the quality of vision as well as the contrast sensitivity. This is one example. Of the two eye of a person, one eye has a normal lens, other eye has aspheric lens, and you can see the quality and point spread function is much better in the aspheric lens. But one of the disadvantage of aspheric lenses is once there is a decentration of these lenses, it leads to a more induction of coma aberration in these eyes. And effect of decentration is more in aspheric IOL as compared to a spherical IOL. Similarly, if there is a tilt, that also induces a coma, which is much more evident again in the aspheric lenses as compared to the spherical lenses. So sources of coma, naturally occurring coma, remains unchanged during the cataract surgery, as the difference between the visual axis and optical axis remains unchanged. The correlation between IOL placement of the visual axis and coma is also to the significant amount. Induced coma has been shown to be higher in patients implanted with aspheric IOLs than in spherical IOLs. And unlike spherical aberration, coma has not historically been considered at the time of doing a cataract surgery. It's not moving forward. Okay. So coma occurs because the visual axis and the pupillary axis are not in the same plane, because there is an angle between the two, so there it induces a coma. And choosing an IOL with optics that consider spherical aberration and coma should be the optimal choice. And Vivinex platform provides minus 0.18 micron of spherical aberration, and this partial correction of spherical aberration of the human cornea maintains the patient's field of that. But how to, does it tolerate or somehow counteract the effect of coma, naturally occurring coma, or because of the displacement of the lens? Let us see. The VivoNex platform is designed to have a minimized impact of coma on image quality. There are two distinct aspheric elements in the center of the IOL which work in harmony. The central 1.2 millimeter of optical zone induces a positive coma by using a convex meniscus structure there, while the 1.2 millimeter area around it induces an equal and negative coma through a concave meniscus. So the combined effect is, what we see is it improves the image quality by counteracting the decentration effect as well as tilt effect. You can see it counteracts in opposite direction and you get a minimal distortion of image. And it has been shown in various studies that Vivinex platform is more immune to optical degradation caused by decentration when compared to other two platforms. There was a minimal amount of uh, maximal tolerance to desaturation with the ViviNex platform. Then coming to what is new about this platform is available in preloaded cartridge, which is called new ICERT as of now. Recently, they are coming out with a much more efficient. I'll come to that later on. This is a preloaded platform in a ICERT cartridge, and the advantages of this preloaded cartridges, there is no direct handling of the IOL, the sterility is maintained, and cartridge goes through the 2.2 inches easily, and it is a single-handed screw type of injector, and the injection is very predictable. Chances of endophthalmitis are much less as there is no contamination of the lens, and it has the enhanced safety for IOL insertion. And this is the new multi-set injector. The advantage of this new multi-set injector is we can use it as a push type of injector as well as screw type. If we want to use as a screw type, you can screw it from here. If we want to use as a single hand use, you can push this plunger and it goes smoothly. This is going to be recently launched by the Hoya people. Uh, and The advantage is you can adjust this length of nozzle also. If you want to directly implant the lens within the bag, you can increase this length. If you want to deliver outside the bag, you can control the amount of this nozzle project inside the anterior chamber. Then now coming to how this platform helps us in preventing PCO. It has a unique design, and it has a the square edge, which is most compared to other lenses, it has the best square edge and almost a perfect square edge, which prevents the migration of epithelial cells. And it is a hydrophobic acrylic material, and the posterior surface of this material is ozone treated, which makes it more adherent to the posterior capsule. And because of this adherence, these epithelial cells fails to migrate to large extent between the cell and the posterior capsule, so that there is a prevention of PCO. And the clinical data is there on the files, which has shown that as compared to other platforms, the PCO rates are much less with Vivinex. And this is one study from Japan, which shows that 4 years YAG capsulotomy rate with Hoya Vivinex were much lesser as compared to the other control platform. Also, there are studies on record. Recently, a study was there in January issue 2021 American Journal, where they have compared two eyes of the same patient in almost 40 patients, where they put Hoya Vivinex in one eye and another platform in other eye. And after 3 years, they found that YAG capsulotomy rates were almost half as compared to the other platform. So to summarize, this Hoya Vivinex platform has a proprietary aspheric optic design. It neutralizes corneal positive spherical aberration. It also tolerates anatomical misalignment and compensates for the comma aberration, which other platforms fails to do. And it has a unique preloaded delivery cartridge system, which helps us to increase the workflow and prevents endophthalmitis. And also it further reduces the PCO rates and JAK capsulotomy rates as compared to the other platforms. Thank you so much for patiently.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah.
We can proceed with the second speaker of the day.
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Meena?
No, sir, you are not audible, sir.
Dr. Meena, we can start with the presentation.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
दूसरा एक बजे शुरू होगा, 2 टॉक्स उसमें.
Dr. Meena, can't hear you, ma'am. Hello?
Tariq. And
मेरा
can you hear me, Shweta?
क्या कितना है?
Ma'am, your voice is audible, but it's on a very minimal volume. So if you could increase the volume, it would be great. We can hear you, but it's on a very minimal volume actually.
Now it's
तो
okay.
बोल रहे हैं.
A little more, ma'am.
Now volume is okay.
बाद में तब तक खत्म हो जाएगा मेरा.
Ma'am, you can speak a little louder.
Yes.
Yes, this is better, ma'am.
This is better. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is sharing my first 50 implants of Vivinex Toric IOL. And what's an ideal Toric IOL a beginner would like to know is rotational stability and no post-op surprise and the user-friendly Toric calculator, ease of insertion, and we don't want any PCO rates. And Vivinex Toric, it's a glistening free and hydrophobic acrylic IOL material. And the special characteristic of this is the outstanding rotational stability with a mean rotation of 1.1 degrees, even in the 6 months post-op period. And a very special characteristic is the active oxygen processing treatment, which reduces the PCO rate. And this is about the technical characteristics you can visualize in the website. And why do we talk or concern so much about the rotational stability? And this image, this picture shows how there is deterioration of the image quality with every 5 degrees of rotation. And when there is more than 30 degrees rotation, there is no benefit of toric IOLs. And the toric IOLs have evolved over a period of time for enhancing the good memory and to stay where they are put. And I don't want my toric IOL, like I don't want the axis of placement by chance, but it should be by choice. And it should remain where I placed it, 1 hour or 1 day or 1 week or a month or an year, whatever, so that patient is happy and the surgeon is also happy. So any suboptimal axis alignment lands up in suboptimal outcomes. And this is a study which proves that the greatest degree of misalignment in the post-operative period occurs within 1 hour after surgery. That is where we need to watch out.
वो भी नहीं लग रहा था.
And this is another study done on Vivinex rotational stability, where 103 eyes were implanted with the Hoya Vivinex, and the greatest degree of post-op rotation occurred within 1 hour. And however, the rotational stability was proved even at the end of 6 months with a mean rotation of 1.1 degree, and 100% of the implanted lenses had less than or equal to 5 degrees rotation from the initial axis of placement, even at 6 months post-operative period. And this study also reveals that there was no correlation between rotation and axial length. And this is my study on 51 eyes in our Mahatma Eye Hospital. And we found no post-op residual refractive error in any one of these eyes. And in all the eyes, whatever we found as a cylindrical error in the post-operative period, it was all less than or equal to 0.5, not even single eye across beyond 0.5 cylindrical error. And this Hoya Vivinex Toric, they are manufactured with the different refractive powers at a meridian of 90 degrees, and the markings are so bright and clear. So alignment with the corneal marking is also very comfortable, and it offers up to 6 cylindrical power correction at the corneal plane, 4 dioptric power, And the superiority of this toric IOL, I have enjoyed that even in low torics, there are no post-operative surprises, and it's taking into account the posterior corneal astigmatism, their toric calculator. And these are my 4 eyes out of those 51 eyes where I had pre-op magnitude of astigmatism, all the eyes less than 0.5 diopters, and these are the IOL powers I used, and all the patients had 6 nil glasses without any post-op surprises. Preoperatively, based on my keratometric values, I take a decision on toric IOL implants using the Hoya toric online calculator, which would suggest my toric model. Especially, this is beneficial when I wanted to use low toric models. And now already previous speaker has spoken a bit about this, but I could be reinforcing what he said. What all of us need to know is the keratometric index is used upon the assumption that the corneal thickness profile is uniform across the cornea, but that is not so. The next diagram shows in reality, the cornea is thicker in the vertical plane than in the horizontal direction, making the posterior cornea more against the rule astigmatism than when we calculate just using the anterior corneal curvature and the keratometry index. So the total corneal astigmatism is a combination of posterior and anterior corneal astigmatism. It's just not taking into account the anterior corneal surface. And many patients with anterior visceral astigmatism at the time of cataract surgery, they have got converted into against the rule astigmatism. Therefore, overall total corneal astigmatism is less than actually what it is if the anterior corneal astigmatism alone is taken into consideration. This is again reinforced by the study conducted by Koch et al. And the astigmatism contributed by the posterior cornea is though it's approximately 0.30 diopter, it ranges from 0.01 to 1 diopter. But this needs to be correlated very well, and we don't know which patient has what, as most of us use the keratometers, which measure only the anterior corneal astigmatism. However, many toric calculators use an approximation method based upon the constant ratio as by the Gaussian optic, where the ratio is for anterior and posterior surface. It doesn't take into account the customized posterior corneal astigmatism at all. And then once the posterior corneal astigmatism, the low toric model, the rotational stability is all well understood and the concern addressed, the next concern is what will happen in large eyes. With large eyes, with the high axial length and large capsular bags, is it going to rotate in the post-operative period? After a year, is the patient going to come back with some reduced quality of the image and all that? But in my series, this is 1 month post-op among the 51 eyes, the 7 eyes above 24 millimeters of axial length of these IOL powers. The maximum axial length was 25.72. And all the patients, 1 month post-op, the 6 nil glasses and happy patient. And there was no, the rotation. I just used the guidance of the gratings in the slit lamp to measure the rotational stability. I understood there are better softwares to be more precise on that. And the posterior corneal astigmatism, the key consideration is addressed and the rotational stability is addressed. Now the formula and the calculation device, how good the toric calculator is going to be in addressing all the issues. This is a very user-friendly and a very simple calculator wherein we use Hoya toric online calculator not only for preoperatively to decide on the toric, whether I have to opt for a toric IOL or not, and what model, especially in the low torics, then we proceed on to counseling the patients. And the beauty of this is the Abulafia-Cox regression formula. It is default in the off position, but we need to switch it on, especially if we are using only the anterior corneal astigmatism for the IOL power calculation. If we feed in the data of the Scheimpflug imaging, then I think we can switch it off where the posterior corneal astigmatism as well is given. And then we feed the flat case, and then it automatically calculates the steep case 90 degrees apart. And we feed the surgeon-induced astigmatism. And this calculator also supports the surgeon with the image where the surgeon sits superiorly or temporally. With that, that support is also there. And then a printout it gives a final axis of placement and incision location. And we come out with the 3 options depending on the residual error, post-operative residual astigmatism. And this option is also a beautiful aspect in this Hoya Toric calculator. And then this comes out as a printout. Then previous speaker, sir, told about the ease of insertion. This is in just about whatever I said before. And the ease of insertion. This is the only preloaded toric IOL available in the market. And this IOL, I've never had any fat opening, giving a jerk to the IOL or to the surgeon. Or note the advancing haptic, how well it opens up in a very slow manner, giving time. And also the trailing haptic also opens in a very gentle manner. And there is no stuck up of the IOL. There is no advancing haptic straightening and going into the bag. And then because of the slow release, we have a good time. And now we can dial it and insert in the bag. And the haptic is beautiful in that it is the texture of the haptic is rough, so it anchors very well. And the memory of this IOL is also very good with the posterior capsule, good adhesion as proven by the study. And I have been very happy using this IOL of late. And thank you once again to All India Society and the panelists and Hoya for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Meena. Thank you very much, Dr. Meena, for the excellent presentation. I wanted to ask you 1 or 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
Firstly, is that when these were introduced, the toric IOLs from Hoya, they were 12.5 millimeters total length, and they used to rotate quite a bit. Now, having made the lens 13 millimeters total length, and the optics edges are also now roughened. Have you noticed that there is what is the degree of rotation that you find?
Sir, to my understanding, I used only the gratings in the slit lamp to study the rotation in the post-operative period.
There is none.
But sir, I could say it was like 2 degrees or so, not more than that, sir, in the slit lamp gratings. Then later, when I read few articles, I understood there are special softwares which need to be incorporated in the microscope, and also when we measure post-operatively, so that this is more precise than using the gratings in the slit lamp. Suhas, sir?
Sure.
Yes.
Well, Meena, your presentation is very good. Very impressed with it. In fact, I had a question for you. In your 1 slide, you showed all your cases where you used T2. And in most of them, the astigmatism that you had was around 0.3, 0.4. What was your reasoning or logic behind using toric for such a small range of cylinder?
Sir, very happy to be seeing you after a long time, Suhas, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And If you noticed the type of astigmatism, it was against the rule astigmatism
Okay.
in all these cases.
Hmm.
And as we all have understood, these patients obviously must have had a posterior corneal astigmatism against the rule, which was additive. And if I had not made the option of using the T2 models, low toric models, probably in the post-operative period, I might have been in a position to prescribe 0.75 or 1 diopter residual cylindrical power if I had used just monofocal IOLs without toric implants.
But your result of 51 cases is very impressive. I'm very
Yes,
happy
sir.
to note it. I just
Yes,
wanted
sir.
to know, you use that Hoya calculator for all your cases, or do you ever try any other calculator? Like, do you
No,
go
sir.
on the Barrett or any of those?
I used only a Hoya toric calculator pre-operatively
Hmm.
and for IOL power calculation as well, online toric calculator.
Okay.
How do you do your preoperative markings?
The axis marking in the slit lamp, sir.
On the slit lamp?
Yes.
But
And what marker do you use? Post the toric in the sense intraoperatively to align the lens?
When preoperatively, I have used the axis marking directly. I stopped using the Mendes marker perioperatively. Before, we were using the reference axis marking 0, 180, 90, and then perioperatively, we had to use the reference axis marking, the Mendes marker for axis marking. So now we stopped. Even preoperatively, we use only the axis marking directly. It's slit lamp marking.
Thank you very much.
We can actually take all the questions at the end of the session,
Okay.
proceeding to the third speaker of the day.
The third speaker is Dr. Tityal. Is he here? He's not here. Then Dr. Suhas.
yeah,
Would you to start your presentation, please?
sorry. Am I audible and
Yeah, very audible, and your slides are also good.
okay?
Coming up very well.
Thank you, Naushir. Thank you, Hoya, for inviting me to be, here for this particular important session. Well, this talk is about my early experience of Nanex Multicert. Now, Nanex is the new baby in the Hoya basket. Now, ophthalmologists today are spoiled for choices. Lens technology has matured in every aspect in offering best of the features in both monofocal and multifocal platforms. But when it comes to choosing your lens, we look at ease of implantation. We look at the size of the wound needed to insert a lens. We also look at long-term stability of the lens in the eye. And obviously, we look at long-term PCO retardation properties. Well, talking about among the preloaded platforms, Hoya has proven to be one of the favorites in terms of comfort and incision friendliness, which was mentioned by the previous two speakers. Now with Nanex Multicert lens implantation system, the Hoya have taken it to a new level. All of us know that with available technology to perform phaco through 1.8 millimeter incision, Nanex Multicert fills the unmet need of an injector system that can deliver through a sub 2 millimeter wound without stretching it any further. Now, that is a very significant step that Hoya has achieved. Well, I have no financial interest, but this is what the Hoya has done. Now we have different preloaded injector systems. A preloaded system, as it was mentioned before, it reduces the instrument's touch during preparation, which helps to reduce risk of bacterial contamination. There's absolutely no chance that forceps may scratch the IOL optic. And there's always increased predictability and consistency of lens delivery. Now we come to the product that I'm talking about, and that is Nanex Multicert. Now this lens obviously is a hydrophobic with UV filter. It's 6 millimeter by 13 millimeter. It has an angulation, and it goes through the injector whose outer diameter is around 1.62 millimeter. So effectively, through an incision size of 1.8, this lens can be easily inserted. Let's look at the PCO overview. According to some studies, the overall incidence of all forms of significant PCO requiring yaw capsulotomy is nearly 12% or more within 5 years. And the rate is, however, significantly greater for younger patients and can be affected by the lens that we implant. Now, Hoya has its own triple approach, which was said in the first talk by Dr. Kumar. It is an edge design, hydrophobic acrylic, but what's interesting is the oxygen processing. And they call it active oxygen processing, which is a simple and highly effective method which improves the wettability and the adhesion of posterior surface of hydrophobic acrylic lens. Now, this treatment in combination with the other two is effective in significantly reducing the PCO rates. This study done shows you that active oxygen processing treatment can significantly inhibit the PCO formation in a treated surface in comparison with untreated surface. This is an Nanex IOL material with a surface which is treated with active oxygenation, whereas this is an IOL material without the surface, and you can see a significant increase in the thickness of LEC proliferation on the central posterior capsule. Let's come to that innovative design of Nanex Multicert, which allows surgery through sub 2 millimeter incision during cataract surgery without compromises. Talking about wound protection, there's a minimal wound stretch because this particular nozzle has the smallest size, which has an outer diameter of 1.2. The delivery consistency and smoothness is outstanding, and the predictable lens release afforded by Hoya's unique patented preloaded IOL delivery mechanism proves it. Now, this particular injector is called a 4-in-1 preloaded IOL system, which has a push or screw injection and insert shield in advanced or default position. Now, what is it? Let's see in the next case. Now, this is a uniquely single-handed push or two-handed screw injection within one device. This is where you're using single-handed push technique to insert the lens in. And if you're used to using a screw technique, this is how you hold it with one hand and very gradually with the second hand, you can screw it in. And the other two features are about how delivery can be done directly into the capsular bag, or it will be done through the incision wound. So it has got an insert shield, which by default position, it is at the back. So the entire nozzle can go through your incision and literally the lens is placed in the bag. But if you are not used to that, or if you are comfortable using it only into the wound, then the shield is brought forward so that that shield prevents the nozzle from going further. Now let's look at this case. First, you inject viscoelastic to fill it. Then you remove the cap. Then you forward the locking mechanism and take it out. And this lens can either be used with a plunger pushed forward directly. And the beauty of this nozzle is that it goes in directly. Now here the shield is in the default position and the lens is directly getting placed into the bag, and the material is such that it unfolds so comfortably that it's so very repetitive, so very precise. And mind you, this presently it is done to 2.2, but you can do it with equal ease even through your 1.8 incision, provided you have a phaco ability to complete your phaco with 1.8 incision. Now, why it is so? Protecting the sub 2 millimeter incision quality through world's smallest nozzle tip of an open loop preloaded hydrophobic IOL design is what Hoya offers us. And when you compare the nozzle size comparison, the Nenex as compared to most of the others that are available like Ultracert, Technis iTech, Rayon hydrophobic, it's the smallest one where it is 1.62 millimeter outer diameter. And that makes it possible to insert it comfortably. And why it is important is highlighted in this study. And mind you, this is very true. In this, Nenex multi-cert is used through a 2 millimeter incision as compared to some other lens. If you look at this blue segment, which is wound stretch by the IOL implantation, there is almost 51% reduction in wound stretch, because wound stretch is a reality. That you can see in the last one, where you have two of the well-known lenses, where the wound stretch is almost 0.32. That means if you are using a 2.2 millimeter incision, the final size of the incision becomes 2.56 or 2.62. Now, this is not an exaggeration, because we rarely measure our wound at the end of implantation. The wound stretches to become so big. So if you have a nozzle which can go through without stretching the wound, it is always wanted. So in conclusion, Nenex lens and multi-cert injector system is a new member in the ever-expanding group of lenses for us to try and enjoy the ease of comfort and long-term stability. Thank you so much.
Sir, one question.
Yeah.
Sir, do you ever use any intracameral moxie or something before injecting visco?
Pardon me?
Intracameral moxie or something before injecting visco into the
No.
lens?
No.
Sir, you have to unmute yourself, sir. Nasir, sir, please unmute, sir.
Suhas, were you using the Hoya Vivinex earlier?
Oh yeah.
So how do you find it different in the multi-cert, using the multi-cert over the, are you using the push and pull technique, or are you still using the threading technique?
As of today, till now, the Vivinex that is available is only the screw technique.
Yeah, the threading thing, yes.
The Nenex comes with multi-cert. Now Nenex, because you can use it with one hand, for Nenex I use the push, and for Vivinex I use the screw.
The Vivenex is also now coming into the both the
Yes,
in
yes,
both formats.
yeah. But then that will
What
not
do
be.
you find? How is this the pushing method? Is it very smooth, as smooth as the?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. See, I can tell you this much, Naushad. I haven't seen a better injector system today, because even when Vivinex came, the injector with which it came was the best available in the market. And today the Nenex injector system is a notch higher.
Oh, that time I was one of the first users, and I find that this is the best injector system. There's been no cracking of the lens. There's been no this thing of the somersaulting of the lens, or any crack at the optic haptic junction. So, and very smooth delivery. So I think that it's one of the best systems that we have, preloaded systems besides the other properties that the lens has. But this is a very, very major advancement of the preloaded injector system. I think it's one of the best, as you said, in the market.
Yes.
Can we have the next? Thank you so much, Suhas.
Yeah.
Can we have the next speaker, Dr. Sonu Goyal, please? Or has Dr. Titial come? Is Dr. Titial here? Dr. Sonu Goyal, please.
Thank you, sir. A very good morning. Wonderful talk, Suhas, sir.
Thank you.
And a very good morning, Dr. Arun Jain, Dr. Naushad, sir. So is my screen visible and am I audible, sir?
Yes, very good. Perfect.
So I'll be just sharing my experience with these preloaded IOLs, and I think this is the way of future of ophthalmology, the way to go. So why I say so, we all know that optimizing cataract surgery outcomes, we have drifted from creating an excellent capsular rhexis, maybe on a cataract or a femto platform, an excellent phaco with fluidics, excellent capsular polishing, a very good IOL centration. But what has been very important and is the IOL and the delivery system. So I rest my case on the delivery system because this is what now we feel takes most of the time. So the expectations of by me as a surgeon to the industry for the delivery system in the IOL is to have a very, very predictable and a reproducible. So I think what Dr. Nasir and Dr. Suhas were discussing were the excellent reproducibility, which is very, very important in these delivery systems. So ease and the safe IOL delivery in the bag without manipulation, a controlled IOL delivery with a single hand, unaltered wound integrity, similar behavior irrespective of IOL power. Now, this is one very important point where the rest of the commercials really do not stand up to. So there is always, in extreme of the powers, the delivery system usually behave erratic, and we have those cartridges getting ruptured and the lens getting snugged at the incision sites. Minimal handling or a touch and a manipulation as to have no risk of contamination. And all these points then boil into one important thing: as all busy surgeons, you are reducing the surgical time. And that is what everybody wants to move out as quickly as possible from the OR. And this all has been, exemplified in this COVID era, where we all want, as far as possible, all these points during our surgeries. Now, if you see the complications with the delivery system, on the extreme right, there could be incorrect presentations of the leading haptic going on the right side, and haptic optic addiction. One very common platforms with the hydrophobic acrylic foldable, we all have seen. We are waiting, we can have a cup of coffee, come back till the time this the love twig goes off. So this addition has been very quite annoying with the hydrophobic acrylic foldable IOLs. So the major complications with the delivery system, if you see a video on the right side, this is one video I made of my OR staff while she was loading the lens. See how many instrumentations, how much time, and how much patience, and that too if she goes presbyopic, it's difficult. Look at the amount of wound stretch. Now, this is all what I want to avoid being a surgeon. Moreover, once I take this inside, watch carefully. Extremes of the powers, as I was talking, a plus 30 diopter lens, and the cartridge goes ripped off. the lens get torn on the extreme right and the cartridge gets ripped off. So these are the points which really made me wonder and go back to the literature, n number of publications in the JCRS iWorld where the predictability, safety and efficacy of all these preloaded IOL systems have been. So I compared the various preloaded systems available in the world market. So out of no commercial interests, if you see on the left top, this is the one with the Zeiss. On the lower left, one with Biotech. On the extreme right, this is the Hoya. So whether you use one hand or two, whether you use a push or a rolling technique, how much predictable, how much reproducible. So my own personal experience boiled down to just one thing, that Hoya was the most consistent in terms of reproducibility. And more so in the addition is this multi-cert injector delivery system. A beauty, a treat to operate. We can have a single-handed push injection system or a two-handed screw injection. So a preloaded IOL injector system have many desirable as compared to the manually loaded systems. They're easier to prepare, increasing safety by reducing the risk of contamination and infection. So gone are those days of TARS and endophthalmitis because of the loading of the IOLs, and reducing the risk of IOL damage. More efficient in the OR. So it basically boils down to minimizing time spent preparing the IOL delivery system and creating fewer instruments to reprocess. So ultimately the number or the volume can be enhanced and saving time, and it's more predictable, increasing predictability and consistency of the IOL delivery, and thereby giving the patients consistent results. But not all preloaded injectors shown are the same when it comes to performing consistently. A lot of studies and a lot of competitive products in the market which have been compared and have been found to be inconsistent with these products. So the Nanex Multicert provides, if you see the orange bar in the right in the center, this Nanex is designed to provide a smooth lens delivery system. And when this was compared on the forces required to deliver the IOL, I think the thrust was minimum with the Nanex as compared to the various lenses on the Zeiss, on the Rayner platform and the Alcon platform when they were compared. So it was a very smooth delivery of the lens inside the eye. A uniformly low resistance force, both with the Vivinex and the Multicert used with the Nanex, and even in the highest of the available dioptric power, if you see on the extreme right, up till 30 diopters, it behaved uniformly as a lens somewhere between 0 to 30. So there was never a drift in the amount of force required. So to conclude, the preloaded injectors systems basically boil down to 100% of the leading and the trailing haptics consistently tagged correctly, zero complications for adverse events, and zero broken injector tips after the IOL release. So that is what my demand of the industry, and that is what we have been achieving with these the Hoya preloaded lenses. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sonu, for an excellent presentation. I just want to know one or two things, Sonu.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Tell me, is there a greater resistance with a plus 30 diopter lens in this Nanonex system? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Is there a greater resistance to the injection in the if you use a plus 30 diopter lens?
So with the Hoya platform, I think we have used the Vivinex
on the new platform.
On the new platform, sir, I've not gone to the extreme of the powers, but up till 27 that we used, it is smooth as you are using your regular lenses. So that is one very important feel with these delivery system.
The other thing is that can you switch over from the threading system to the pushing system whenever?
So that is one great tool. If we are ambidextrous or we want to just use one hand, we can always switch from the push to the threading system, or maybe from the threading to the push system.
At any stage of surgery or any stage of implantation?
Yeah, at any stage.
Okay.
In fact, I've liked this the most. Nausheed sir, I'm also using this new shooter from the Hoya platform on their Nanex and Vivinex platforms. I've really enjoyed. In fact, the only reason I was not using too many Hoya lenses initially was because I do a hydro implantation, and now that we have the shooter option along with this, it has really helped because now I can use all the lenses and it's become very easy. And you can switch between the two, and it's very smooth. I think the injection is one of the best that I've seen.
Yeah, not only the injection, finally, I find that the injection, the quality of the lens, the PCO.
Absolutely. The lens was always very good, sir. It was just that I was not happy with the, the unfolder kind of thing, because I do a single-handed
insertion. The lens, everything is just perfect. I find this lens a very good lens for implantation by anybody. You don't even need a nurse to prepare.
Exactly.
Loading.
Absolutely.
You can just take up that this thing and directly load the lens with little viscoelastic.
And not only that, sir, with the 2.2 injector system, I mean, you don't have to struggle with the incision like some of the other lenses which come preloaded for 2.2 incisions. The tip of the cartridge goes well inside, so you're not doing a wound assisted. The tip goes inside and the lens delivery is very smooth straight into the back. So there are no surprises. That's one thing which I've liked about the injector system.
No surprises, no cracking of the lens, no splitting of the lens. No breakage.
We should ask Haldipurkar sir also. He is there.
Yeah.
I said I can see Dr. Haldipurkar. We should ask his
opinion. Haldipurkar has been with
us. He has been a great fan of this product, I believe.
Yeah, I used it from the right from I when it was introduced, I found that the Hoya lens. I used to use Hoya lenses in my camera, and that is why I thought it was a company which was making good quality lenses, and that was their forte. So I always thought that this would be a good lens, but never did I think that it would have such a good injector system.
I think our moderator wants us to go on. She thinks that the time we are running short of time.
Yeah.
I can see her getting
Dr. Tikyal wants to join by 1:15 now. I don't know whether we can.
Is there any talk left, sir? I mean, I'm sorry I joined late. I was in another session. Any talks left?
There's no talk except Dr. Tikyal.
Sir, has anybody used their three-piece lens? Sorry, Sonu, have you used that three-piece lens with the injector system preloaded?
Yeah, I have used that three-piece. Yeah.
Now, we are not getting Sensar three-piece very easily, and they've increased the prices quite a bit. So I was thinking of using this as a second option. I've ordered a few of them, and I was wondering whether the injector is as good as it is for the single-piece lenses.
So my experience with the three-piece has been a little bad because sometimes, the cartridge gets fractured. So that I have reported them n number of times, and the IOL also sometimes behaves, not consistent. The behavior is not consistent.
You mean the three-piece lens means the actual? I've never seen the three-piece lens.
Sir, Hoya actually has three-piece preloaded lenses also.
In fact, they have two lenses. They have an aspheric and they have a normal spherical lens, but I think the spherical is withdrawn. So they only have an aspheric three-piece lens, which is preloaded. I haven't used even one of them, but I've ordered a few.
Is it fused with the optic? Or is it
Sorry to interrupt, doctors, but all the talks for this session have been got done, or is there anybody else also?
There's one speaker more at 1:15. So what do we do?
One of our speakers will join late. He's joining at 1:15, so we are continuing with the discussion till he joins.
No problem.
I have a question for
I think we should wait for him till 1:15.
Yes, so we have the slot till 1:30. So yes, we can continue.
Wonderful.
So Gaurav, instead of looking in for a three-piece, why don't you shift to that 150 model? I think that could be an economical and another good.
So I'm using the 150 already.
Piece.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the three-piece when you need to put a three-piece, a reliable three-piece.
Okay.
And if it's preloaded, why not? Why waste time on loading lenses? And so if you have a good three-piece preloaded lens, so I'm just going to explore it for that reason. I've never used it. So
no, you could use it for sulcus fixation.
Yes.
Yeah.
for sulcus fixation and for various other reasons. Like I'm also wondering whether it can be actually used for a Yamane or something.
But
you know, in the
actually,
future.
that three-piece will not serve that purpose of Yamane or maybe sulcus fixation, because
Why is that?
altogether the design is different.
Oh, how is it different, Sonu?
I cannot comment on the haptics, what material, but it's actually not that PVDF material.
Okay.
Is it
Okay.
a existing? Is it the same material as the optic?
Sir, I actually doubt
It can't
because
be. Sonu, it has to be a three-piece lens. Then, only thing is that, yes, you're right. Maybe it cannot be used for Yamane, but I'm sure it can be put in the sulcus. I mean, if you're not wanting to put a single piece in the sulcus.
I
a
think
three-piece-
that overall diameter, would it, I'm not pretty sure about that. I can't comment on
Aldeep
that.
Pukar sir, would you have
Isn't it, Sonu?
But
idea
I've
on
not
this?
used great numbers for that.
Sonu, isn't that 12.5 millimeters to overall
And I'm
diameter?
actually not very sure because I initially used maybe some few years back and then I aborted because of that inconsistent behavior.
Suhas,
Okay.
have you got anything to comment about that? About a three-piece lens from Hoya at all?
Yeah. Well, initially before this Vivinex came, three-piece lenses from Hoya, I have used several of them, and I shared the experience of, I remember the injector system was not that good, so the lenses, it was a great preloaded system, but it's a three-piece lens, so very often you could easily use it. Like, either, that was a lens you could use for in the bag, or in case you had a PCR, you could safely put it in the sulcus. But the haptic was, I remember, PMMA haptic. So if the size, I do not remember, but yes, you can easily use it for your sulcus fixation, a scleral fixation. I'm not too
Sir,
sure.
is it polymerized PMM, I believe? I'm also not very sure. I think it's a polymerized PMM three-piece lens.
I think it's all guesswork right now.
Yeah,
But sir,
actually,
Aldeep
we
Pukar
have
sir,
gone
which
up-
is your preferred three-piece lens now? I mean, if there is a situation, although this is a Hoya session, but maybe this three-piece lens thing can be.
For scleral fixation, then I prefer either sensor or three-piece Alcon lens.
So, given a choice of all the preloaded lenses available in the world market, my question to Suhas sir, which will be your first pick?
Obviously, till now it was Vivinex, but now obviously it is Nanex Multicert or Vivinex Multicert, for the simple reason that I'm very concerned about the wound stretch, and wound stretch is minimum with this particular injector.
So, how about you, Nasir sir?
I think this is one of the best lenses that I have come across. Not only wound stretches, because actually, what happens with wound stretches that you not only stretch the wound, but you actually by producing a stretch, you tear the wound, and that is the worst possible thing that you can do. And in fact, an incision which is supposed to be small becomes even bigger, and self-sealing of that incision even becomes more difficult. So I emphasize that it should be a wound that might be a little bigger, maybe even 2 millimeters or 2.2 millimeters, but it should not, the injector should not tear the wound, or so that you can close the wound comfortably by hydrating it.
Gaurav, what's your
What happens in the? I completely agree. My favorite injector as of today is the new, shooter come unfolder from Hoya. We call it as a multi-cert, and I'm using the Nanex and the Vivinex on both these platforms, and I'm very happy for the last month or so that I've been using the month or two that I've been using them. My question is that suppose you have a injection of the lens, it opens up outside the wound with one of these injectors, because a couple of our friends who are not so expert and they start using them, and they may occasionally have a premature opening of the lens outside. How would you deal with that, Aldeep Pukar sir and Nasir sir?
No, but I put the nozzle into the wound, completely into the wound. I don't.
No, just in case the patient moves suddenly the patient moves during injection, and 1 out of 100 cases your lens opens up outside the wound.
I would use one of the available cartridges, especially the Acrisoft cartridge or even the Technis cartridge. and just put it in and use it. Because once it comes out, even if it comes out little, and if I'm not able to get it through the wound, I would safely inject it outside and put it.
In fact, I sometimes tell the companies to have a recommendation for this, for that rare instance. I mean, are we supposed to discard the lens and take out a new one, or should we try to put it? If we have to put it, they should give us a standby injector and cartridge to use just in case you have this situation once in a while. Because in my hospital, one or two of our consultants have had this one or two occasions that a preloaded lens, a Zeiss one or something, opened up because it goes in a little more tight, and it opened up outside the incision. And then, obviously we used a Acrisof or a Technis cartridge, but
you can return the lens. This thing, you can return the lens and the injector unless you don't have a similar power that time.
Trophy Center, they will not blink, but maybe at other places. I think we have Tatyal sir.
I think we have taught Tatyal sir. Hi sir, welcome sir.
Yeah, thank you. Can I make my presentation?
Yes, sir. We are waiting for you, sir.
We are waiting, sir. Aaphi ka intezar ho raha hai.
I was in another session,
Sir, 1:30 बजे वो honk कर देगी.
I think we can start with the presentation.
Okay. Is this visible to you, sir?
Yeah.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Okay, thank you. Let me start my experience with the Hoya Vivinex IOL. And I've been using their lenses almost now, touching 3 years plus, maybe 4 years now. And I've been with them for a very, very long time in terms of doing an analysis of their patients. No financial disclosure. We had various generation of IOLs, and we are looked into our premium IOLs, the IOL designs, and this real relationship to the posterior capsule in terms of decreasing the opacity to the posterior capsule, which is a major concern for all of us for patients' benefit in terms of long-term clarity of capsule is concerned. So this Vivinex lens with the surface modification is aimed towards decreasing the posterior capsular opacification, and maybe it will decrease the requirement of YAG capsulotomy or delay the requirement of YAG capsulotomy in future. And we all know how it works and its mechanism of getting the posterior capsule towards the posterior surface IOL by with the modification of posterior surface only of this IOL with the ozone treatment. That is how it's going to work. And they have modified their other areas of interest, that is the haptic is texture. Similarly, their edge of lens is also textured so that you have a better orientation during your insertion of a haptic, as well as it has a better alignment or a contact to the capsular bag for a better fixation also, which is going to be a remarkable addition for their toric designs in the future also. This is how high magnification their lens looks like. Let me talk about my own experience with the Hoya lenses, where we looked into the posterior capsule dynamics towards the posterior surface of IOL with these lenses in the long term, and correlate that to a quality of vision with these patients subsequently. Just briefly show one of the video here. Do a routine surgery for these cases. The rhexis is around the same size as you do for other cases. My rhexis is around 5.2 to 5.5 in all these cases. And centration of rhexis is very, very important. I strongly feel the rhexis has to be 5 millimeter or plus in all these Hoya Vivinex lenses. Unlike the other lenses where rhexis can be little smaller also, because they came out with the ICERT 251 earlier, which was little smaller in diameter. The rhexis side had to be little smaller in those cases. The phaco can be completed. Let me just show you the insertion of a lens here. Once I complete my emulsification and remove the cortex acid. And the cortical removal and posterior capsular cleaning is also utmost important here, because you can't leave any fibers there, because that's going to get attached to the posterior surface of the lens. And absolutely clarity of capsule is mandatory for these cases. The lens insertion is very, very easy with their device. It goes through 2.2 inside the anterior chamber. And situation where you have a difficulty, like you have a small pupil or a little bit of bag dialysis, this lens can be injected very, very safely inside. And you can rotate your cartridge in a way, the haptic goes behind the capsular axis. And you can see this in high magnification, the texture, their haptic, which never gets attached to the, or gets plugged to the optics of the IOL, which is the beauty of this lens. And it snugly fits into the capsular bag beautifully. This is towards the end. And just to show you what relationship it will have towards end with the capsule here, I've completed and just looking into the capsule and the posterior surface of the IOL here. This is the posterior surface of the IOL. This is the capsule here, which is a little wavy because the capsule will be a little loose after we remove the entire bulk or nucleus. And as soon as we hydrate the nucleus, the capsule goes backwards. See, this capsule is absolutely clean and well taut. So this is the configuration we like to see for most cases subsequently. We looked into a posterior capsular configuration in a post-op period in a day 1, 3 months and 1 year, and then assess them in terms of quality of vision by eye trace and posterior capsule. Also look for any changes in the lens as such. So we had an average patient with a 54 age, around 77 eyes of bilateral surgery. Now we have almost more than 200 cases enrolled now. Visual acuity wise, they are very good. No intra-op complications. We had a clean posterior capsule in a day 1 for both patients. And looking at the type of a posterior capsule, wavy pattern we saw in almost 41% and smooth pattern in a 60% of cases. And the distance from the lens to a posterior capsule was around 200 microns on a day 1. If you see here, day 1, that some cases the distance was less. But if you see this patient at day 30, the distance has decreased. At day 90, it has already got attached to the posterior surface of the IOL. So this is another patient, day 1, and this is day 90. And this is day 1. You can still see a taut posterior capsule. At day 30, this is the clarity of a posterior capsule, and day 90 is almost attached to the posterior capsule here. This is day 1, a wavy type of posterior capsule, and this is at day 30. And this is what sometimes you see, wavy pattern, as we saw in a 41% of cases. This is a taut pattern in around 60% of cases. At 1 year, around 67% cases, we had a complete addition of a posterior capsule towards the posterior surface of the IOL. And these patients, looking into their configuration, the smooth configuration was there in these cases. That means if you have a smooth configuration from a day 1, the chances of addition of a capsule towards a posterior capsule is much higher. So around 82%, 88% of cases where PC were there in day 1 and they got towards the end of 1 year. Around 50% we had a wavy pattern, but they got adherent at 1 year. And the significance was, as I said, wavy had slightly less addition to the posterior capsule. So this is what we can see here at decrease in the height of the capsule from the posterior capsule, which goes on changing from a day 1 to 1 year also. So it's not that every capsule will get attached to a posterior surface of the IOL. So there is a definite difference in a type of pattern we see in these cases. Looking into their visual quality, also we found that if you have a complete addition, the quality of vision was better in terms of Snell's ratio, MTF values, and RMS value. They were better than those cases where the capsule was not adherent to the posterior surface of the IOL. And also, if you look into other areas, they are correlated. If you have a capsule, the distance capsule from the posterior surface less, the quality vision was better. Only 2 cases had a little bit of a central, you can say, growth. Otherwise, all cases at 1 year was absolutely clear posterior capsule. No patient required YAG capsulotomy till date. My experience now 3 years plus, we have not done YAG for any patient as such. And none of the cases had a glistening as such in these cases. Some cases, we have reported this also, had a little bit of a cellular growth, like epithelial cells or growing onto the periphery of the lens in these cases, without having inflammatory signs. We checked their AC cell flare meter. They didn't have any cells in flare, but they did have cells. And they were appearing around 3 months to 6 months subsequently. And these cells never grew towards the center. They were in relation to the capsule only. So we don't know what is exactly the theory behind why these cells are growing onto the surface. Maybe because we think that there's some sort of surface alternation apart from the posterior surface, something goes on anterior surface also, because it is the fibronectin reaction which is happening in the posterior capsule and IOL. That is how it is getting attached. The same thing maybe spill over to the anterior part of a capsule also, and cells may be migrating anteriorly also. But capsule well adherent and no PCO was seen in these patients also. So these are, some cases out of 200, I think we had 11 patients having this. But if you dilate all patients, there'll be some specks of cells seen, which is true with all hydrophobic lenses. This lens has slightly more than other hydrophobic lenses. To summarize, I think the posterior capsular pattern from a day one is important, which will decide the addition of a capsule towards the posterior surface of the IOL. And if you have an addition, if you have less distance between the posterior capsule and the posterior surface of the IOL, the quality of vision is far better than those cases where the capsule is far away. And in terms of posterior capsular opacification, it did not make a difference. But yes, the quality of vision was definitely better with the addition. Therefore, the concept of modifying the posterior surface of the IOL and getting posterior capsule attached seems to be absolutely correct, because it is found that quality of vision will definitely better in these cases. We need to see them long term. Now our follow-up is touching 3 years. Maybe it will give us to see the opportunity of incidence of YAG capsulotomy in these patients. Thank you for your kind listening, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tetial, for an excellent presentation, as always. I wanted to ask you one question. Have you noticed a difference in if the bag size is large, like in a high myope? And do you find these capsules much more floppy than the others and don't adhere to the posterior capsule? Or during its surgery also, some of these capsules are extremely floppy. Do those adhere to the capsule?
Yeah. Absolutely correct, sir. Those myopic patients where you have a larger bag, definitely the capsule will be more wavy and floppy in these cases, and addition may be difficult. In this particular study, we wanted to look into a normal range of cases. So our cutoff of excellence was 22 to 23.5. So we had a almost normal range of excellence, so that we don't have a deviation.
Okay.
We didn't include the other range of cases like hyperopes or very high myopes. But as far as I'm concerned, I've done not those cases also. And what you're saying is absolutely correct, sir. Though the IOL remains quite stable in these cases, but capsule is far away from the posterior surface. And I have done around 300, 400 of their ICERT also, the initial lenses. There it was definitely the lens was little, mobile on the table because it was slightly smaller. But post-op, they did quite okay as such. And because of their optics as such, which has an ABC design, both in ICERT and Vivinex, a little bit of decentration might happen in a loose bag. Still, you don't lose the quality of vision in these cases.
That means dysphotopsias are not there in any of your cases?
Not at all, sir.
Any other questions from anybody? I don't know, the participants are only 15. So I don't know.
All speakers. Suhas, what is your comment, sir?
Yeah, well, your study was excellent, and I'm a little surprised by that on the post-op, immediate post-op, the lens did have so much of space between it and the posterior capsule. So while you're saying that, I was just wondering, see, sometimes, when we use toric, so that the toric may stay well, we have a practice at the end of the surgery to go through the side port and push on the optic and press it back.
Yeah.
Then you see visibly a deepened AC. Now, if you do that practice, do you think we'll get so much of a space between capsule and the optic? Because huge, 130 micron is quite a space, isn't it? Or that's normal for other lenses also?
Yeah. I think nobody has looked into that aspect as such. this is maybe one of the first study where we actually looked onto the, what is the relationship of posterior capsule to the posterior surface of the IOL. And we have done, and it is true that on the table when we hydrate the wound area, you can see the capsule going backwards, and when you decompress, the capsule comes toward the IOL surface. But as far as we are concerned, the lens remains quite stable in the bag. The capsule might move, posterior capsule, but lens is quite stable. So that is what we have seen. It doesn't make a difference if your capsule is far away or far near to the lens. The lens is quite stable in all cases. And there are some cases where the capsule was quite close, but there are some cases it was quite far also. You have seen some cases we do play with the posterior capsule. We pinch the posterior capsule, especially in little hypermature cases. The capsule is quite floppy. On the table also, it depends how much manipulation we have done in those cases.
But these Vivinex don't have posterior angulation, or do they?
Yes, they have.
I think
Five
they have
degrees.
a little angulation. I
5
think
degrees angulation.
5 degrees. 5 degrees.
I'm sorry to interrupt the session, sir, but I think the time is now not allowing us to continue the discussion. We'll have to stop here, and maybe you can have a private discussion between the doctors. Now, please allow me to announce
we can't have.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Suhas. Thank you, Dr. Tityal. I don't know whether Sonu and others are there, but thanks everybody for joining in this session. It was a very fruitful session, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, you're the co-chairman, so you should also thank Dr. Tityal.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for me accommodating me towards the end, because I was busy with 2-3 sessions.
That's okay, sir. You came on the right time and ended on the right time. That's more important. Thank you so much, sir. Let me announce the closure for the session. Thank you so much.
Sir, okay, is it true? I think the meeting is through.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
She was gone.
Sir, Tityal, sir.
Yeah, Ramesh.
Sir, we had one case. There was a discussion just before. We're just going to get a publication in the IJO. There is a lens that came out of the cartridge, but then we tried reloading it with an Alcon system, but it got cracked. But luckily, the crack was in the periphery, and so we just observed the patient that things are doing fine. I just want to share my one small experience. Any such in your?
So this is a iCert lens. This is not a Vivinex lens which you're showing.
Yes, sir. So
iCert has a different haptic design because it has combination of PMMA towards the end and the regular hydrophobic area.
Okay, sir.
These lenses are a little rigid also.
Okay, sir.
Vivinex is quite simple, and you can use Alcon cartridge also.
Okay.
Sometimes what happens, you can in the cartridge itself you can have a lens getting stuck, and that can cause damage to the lens.
Okay.
Because these lenses are not meant for a that type of injector.
Okay. Okay.
I'm really sorry, sir. We have the next session panelist also joined in, so I will have to stop here.
Sure.
Thank you so much, sir.
We close.
Sorry, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.